Welcome to the Capital News. I am your host, Alex Karitis. Today is April 8th, 2019. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope everyone enjoyed their weekend. Happy to be back with you guys. So, a few stories I want to discuss today as a brief update to the Brexit noise. Obviously, we had again, we're back in the three-ring circus. This is where we're headed this week because we have investigations going on. We have Bill Barr testifying this week. We have on the Sunday morning political news stations, we have a whole bunch of Democrats coming out and declaring that we are going to continue to investigate Donald Trump. We want his tax returns. We're all making a full circle here back to Trump's tax returns. We thought this was put to rest. Of course, nothing is ever enough when it goes to the Democrats and attacking this president. However, before I get on to those few stories, I want to mention something that is related to a sex trafficking case, because I told you guys this is something that we have to keep in the back of our minds. This all goes back to what I believe is President Trump sending a message saying, look, you got to read between the lines. Yes, build the wall, illegal immigration. Yes, we need comprehensive immigration reform. Yes, a whole host of things need to be addressed. No doubt about it, no question whatsoever. But in that debate, in that discussion, the president has brought up human trafficking and sex trafficking. And I told you guys you got to pay attention to this because this is something that we don't hear a lot about in the news. We just don't. Why? Because a lot of people, in my estimation, who run these media organizations are in the major political parties, are either involved somehow, some way, unfortunately, or know about it and do very little to handle it. This doesn't get breaking news. This isn't major headlines. But it's a true problem. It's a true crime. Why do we have human trafficking and sex trafficking in this country? Why is it happening anywhere in the world? But it's happening in this country because this country has money. This country has money. And people want to spend it on these types of things. Why? Evidently because they're sick in the head or they're just downright evil. Or a combination. But it exists. And if it exists for only one child, that is too many. So I honestly believe that the president was sending a message and preparing us, if we could read between the lines, that things are going to be coming out. Remember, it wasn't too long ago that you had Bob Kraft, the owner of the New England Patriots, who was just wrapped up in that massage parlor, the quote-unquote massage parlor in Florida, before the AFC divisional game that sent them to the Super Bowl for the umpteenth time. Big names are involved. The Me Too movement, big names in Hollywood, in media. CBS's former president or chairman, Moonves, he's out. Matt Lauer of NBC Today Show. I mean, people woke up and saw this guy every single day. Turned on the news, watched him. Got the boot. This is serious. You have to pay attention. Now, Smallville, which was a TV show, I'm not actually sure if it's still on or not. I never watched it, don't pay attention to it. But nevertheless, Smallville was a TV show, and the actress on there, Allison Mack, has pleaded guilty to charges related to her involvement with a controversial self-help group described as having a secret society of, quote, masters and sexually subservient slaves. Okay? Prosecutors have accused her of recruiting sex slaves for Keith Raniere, who co-founded the controversial self-help group NXIVM and its subgroup DOS, D-O-S, described as an all-female secret society in which women allegedly were forced to be sexually subservient to Raniere. All right, this is disgusting. This is Hollywood again. This is people masquerading as self-help, and it's really just some sort of sex cult of young women. All right? Now, the other thing involved in this, Raniere earlier pleaded not guilty to all other charges against him in the case. A fifth defendant, the Seagram liquor fortune heiress, Claire Bronfman, likely will be the only one besides Raniere to go to trial. And of course, she is being defended by Mark Garagos, who should be a household name by now if people pay attention to some of the news. He handles high profile and high net worth individuals and cases. So this is Seagram. This is, this woman, Claire Bronfman, she's either a multi-millionaire or billionaire waiting in the wings. This is not small potatoes, ladies and gentlemen. This is people at the quote-unquote higher echelons of our society that people look up to and applaud. They got nice smiles and wear the best fashion. All right, this is disgusting. It's disgraceful. And again, everybody has their right to their day in court. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. But at least we know from where it stands right now, the actress Allison Mack has pleaded guilty to this, to being involved in this. So what will become of Keith Raniere and this heiress and the others remains to be seen. They will have their day in court, which is their right. But this is something that you have to pay attention to because it unfortunately exists. It's disgraceful and highly shameful that it exists anywhere on this planet, but that the fact that it exists to the degree that it does in this country is just, it's beyond the realm. It's beyond the realm. So we have to pay attention to this. Now, getting to Brexit real quick. What's the news here? Well, we have Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the UK. Now she wants to go see both Angela Merkel of Germany and Emmanuel Macron of France. Why? I don't know. Do you know? Nobody seems to know why this woman has to leave. I mean, why can't she pick up the phone and have a conversation? Why can't she have a video conference with these other world leaders? Why can't she do it? I mean, isn't time of the essence? It's April 8th. They have until April 12th to come up with some sort of agreement to see if they're going to get an extension. Otherwise, it's see you later, sayonara, UK. Which, of course, according to this podcast, is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. The British people voted already back in 2016, 2.5 going on 3 years, to leave. To leave. That was on the referendum. Do you want to remain or do you want to leave? It wasn't. Well, what kind of deal do you want? Do you want it hot, cold, somewhat in the middle? Come on, give me some. Leave or remain. That was it. That was it. Is it becoming difficult? Sure, because you've entrusted politicians to come to an agreement on this. Of course it's going to look chaotic. Of course it's going to be stupid. Of course any deal that came forth was not going to be the best deal. That's all understood. That's all understood. That's common knowledge. That's common knowledge. That's the world in which we live. That's the world in which we have lived for a very, very long time. These types of matters to be entrusted to politicians, this is what you get. This is no surprise to people who have two brain cells to rub together. Yet it's panic and pandemonium. And don't forget, folks, most people in British Parliament voted to remain. So you have right now, given those last-ditch efforts only a week or so ago, you now have Theresa May of the Conservative Party with Jeremy Corbyn, the leader of the Labour Party, now getting together to see if they can hash out a final deal, a final agreement. They have a few days. All the while, when they debate each other in Parliament, they attack each other. So I don't know how this is going to work because you have Theresa May coming down saying, look, if the UK was under the leadership of the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn, the country would be in shambles. Yet now she has to work with him. Doesn't quite make a lot of sense. He's no good, but now, yes, I'm going to work with him. This is politics. I told you guys to look for a cynical play as to what's going on here. You have people who voted to remain negotiating a leave agreement. Conflict of interest, are there some problems? Not to mention, again, that the EU definitely doesn't want this to happen. They don't want them to leave. They want to keep them in there as long as possible. Or they do want it to be a hard Brexit. I'm convinced of that. Because it sends a message to the other members of the EU who may be thinking about leaving. Don't you do it. Look how chaotic it is. Your economy will be in shambles. Your political process will be in shambles. Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. So now, in an ironic twist, we have the Prime Minister of the UK traveling to France and Germany to see Angela Merkel, Emmanuel Macron, for what? To grovel at their feet? To beg for mercy, for forgiveness? For an extension? I mean, this is exactly what the British people voted against. They don't want to see their elected leaders going to anybody in Europe, for that matter, begging, asking for help and forgiveness and for mercy. The British people voted. They want to make these decisions. They want to chart their future destiny. That's what it was all about. End of story. Everything else is just fluff. Everything else is just the nitty-gritty details. While they're important as to how some of this will ultimately play out, it ultimately has to be in agreement with leaving. Brexit must occur. I'm telling you guys, if it doesn't happen, if it does not happen, it is incumbent upon the people in the UK to revolt. And I mean that. They have to. Because we are talking about our institutions. We're talking about democracy here. You didn't like the outcome? Too bad. That's the risk. You didn't want a referendum to take place? Well, then Parliament shouldn't have put that there. They shouldn't have said, yes, we will put this to the people. And again, you still have calls for a second referendum, which is a huge insult to the institution of democracy. Go back and vote, children, until you vote the way we want you to. Extremely insulting. And then you have the audacity. I really don't even think it's audacity. I just think these politicians over there have no brains. They have no brains because some of the arguments of some of these politicians over there in the UK are, well, you know, there were young people who couldn't vote in 2016, but now they're of age and now they can vote. Oh, that's always the case no matter what the election is. It's always the case, whether it's for prime minister or what. I'm sure there are people who voted who are now dead too. That's life. That's life. People come of age, people die, that's what happens. But for somebody to even say that, that's unbelievable. It's simply astonishing. Well, they were younger then, but now they know and now they should be able to vote. No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. I mean, look at how many people are affected by so many other things. Well, it doesn't matter what country you're in. That statement really threw me for a loop. But it was said, and they believed it. I mean, you could tell by looking at them. I mean, there's lunatics everywhere, here, across the pond, everywhere. It is not exclusive to Bernie Sanders and Pocahontas and Spartacus and a whole host of them. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. And that's why you see quagmire after quagmire all over the place. So Theresa May is flying over Europe to beg for forgiveness, to beg for an extension to occur. Because come April 12th, if something is not agreed to, that's it. It's lights out. The other question that becomes of importance is what type of extension will she get? Will she get it out until May 22nd? Will that remain intact? Or will she get till June 30th? Or will we get the quote-unquote flex tension extension? That was Donald Tusk, the EU Council President, who came out and said, well, you know what? Maybe we'll give the UK a flexible extension. Maybe we'll give them 12 months. Another year of kicking the can down the road. Remember, folks, they were supposed to leave on March 29th. March 29th, a week ago. They were supposed to be gone. If they didn't have a deal or if they had a deal. Well, they don't have a deal. Well, then they just should have left. So now the can will be kicked down the road further and further. This uncertainty could exist for potentially another year. That will most definitely, if that occurs, it will be a shame. Again, the British people should revolt if it does. But then you have EU parliamentary elections that will take place, and you will have a whole bunch of Eurosceptics from the UK most likely going to get elected to the EU Parliament. I cannot see that being an outcome that EU bureaucrats and politicians want to see happen. I would be greatly surprised if they want a whole host of Eurosceptics, basically a whole bunch of Nigel Farages. And again, check out Nigel Farage. He was the former leader of the UK Independence Party, UKIP, who really led the charge on Brexit. And he's been a member of the European Parliament for years and has been a major thorn in their side and Eurosceptic for years. And of course, he was basking in all his glory a few years ago when the Brexit referendum vote took place. That was 2.5, 3 years ago, and we're still arguing about it. This has huge implications on our institution of democracy, on the British economy, on the economies of Europe, and quite frankly, because of the interconnectedness of it all, the global economy. So I cannot see how another year of kicking the can further and further down the road is going to solve anything. This is just a bunch of crybabies who lost, who wanted to remain, They were shocked, as was the world, most of the world, as people were shocked in 2016 when Donald Trump became the president of the United States of America. Too bad, get over it. Too bad, get over it. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Theresa May is able to secure another extension, what that means, what strings are attached. Who knows? But I'll keep you guys updated. Now, to the hissy fit crybabies on this side of the pond, here in the United States of America, well, it's the same names, obviously. It's still Chuck and Nancy. It's still Adam Schiff. It's still Jerry Nadler. And now we've come full circle, if you will, to President Trump and his tax returns. Of course, the president is still going to claim that he is under audit and under advisement of counsel. He is not going to release his tax returns. You also had his chief of staff out, Mick Mulvaney, this weekend saying the Democrats are never going to see the president's tax returns. I honestly don't care. If the tax returns are that important to anybody, well, obviously not enough, because the man became the president of the United States. This was an issue, as was many things. But obviously the American people looked past it and said, we got bigger fish to fry than worrying about this guy's tax returns, because there's a whole bunch of other financial disclosure documents that need to be produced if you're going to run for president. Now, there's no law that says candidates for president have to disclose their tax returns. If Congress thinks it's so important that they do so, then make a law. You're the legislative branch. I mean, that's what you have. Article 1 of the Constitution. Congress, legislators, make a law. If it's that important to you, and you think that that is one of the most transparent items of all issues that could be surrounding anybody's presidential campaign, is the release of their tax returns, then make it a law. Now, it ain't going to pass this time around, because it's highly unlikely that the Republicans in the Senate will go for it. And even if they did, the president will veto it. It will be his second veto. He'll shoot that right down. But at least if the Democrats want to do a vote that is symbolic, well, at least they can do that. I mean, even the Republicans did a symbolic vote on the Green Deal, the new Green Deal. Of course, the Democrats called it out and said this is a political stunt, blah, 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 blah. Of course it was. But that was the point. The ridiculousness of the whole thing. Well, counter that. If the Democrats think it is so important that all presidential candidates must show the American people their tax returns, then make it a law. Make it a law. The problem is, they know perfectly well, if they do that, people are going to say, well, why just the president? You guys are representing us too. You guys are making a whole bunch of votes on national security, our economy, energy policy, a whole host of things. Let me see your tax returns, Nancy Pelosi. Let me see what you're doing, Chuck Schumer. Let me see what you're doing, you two-faced Adam Schiff. What about you, sleazebag Jerry Nadler, and a whole host of them? I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Show them all. They don't want the attention turned on them. Well, I'm just a representative. I'm only here for 2 years. I'm not the president, blah, 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 blah. Then don't worry about it. Well, what about senators? They're there for 6. And most of these idiots are there for their entire lives. So I think we have the right to see all of theirs. I mean, if you're going to see the president's, let's see yours too. Let's see yours too. And now they want to play political games. Now they want to say, well, we're going to go to some law back in the 1920s to say, well, technically we can subpoena the IRS or whatever the case is, and we can get those tax documents. It ain't going to happen, folks. It ain't going to happen. This is just the Democrats trying to do damage control, because their beloved Bob Mueller, his report, which came out, we know this, a couple weeks ago already, and there was nothing there. There was nothing there. There was no collusion. There was no Trump, Russia. There was no obstruction of justice. There was nothing. There was nothing. But here we are. The crybabies have to throw another hissy fit to distract people from all of this. I was hopeful. I knew my hope was ill-placed. But nevertheless, I'm an optimistic person. I was hopeful that maybe, just maybe, some of these Democrats, some of the leaders in the Democratic Party, and some people on the media may have said, you know what, look, we messed up. This was not that big of a deal. Yes, the Russians interfered with our elections, like they do all the time, like the Chinese do, like the North Koreans do, like the Iranians do. I'm sure all of our allies do, because we mess with everybody else too. It's okay for us to do it, evidently, but not okay for somebody else. This is no surprise. But there was nothing there. The other thing that's interesting is any other time that the FBI or our intelligence community thought that that a campaign was being infiltrated by a foreign agent, the FBI or the intelligence community notified the candidate. They tell Hillary Clinton, hey, you might have somebody trying to get in. You might have a mole. You might have some sort of foreign agent in here meddling. They told them. They didn't tell that to Trump. Instead, no. They go through FISA. They create a fake dossier. They create this whole story. They create this quote-unquote insurance policy to nail this guy to the wall, and then it blows up in their face and there's no there. And now they're nervous because they know what they did, and they know that Trump can declassify documents, and they know that you have inspectors general reports coming out, hopefully, this spring or summer. The sooner the better. That has to deal with the intelligence community, the FBI, the DOJ, State Department, the Obama administration, whole kit and caboodle. It's all coming out, and they know what's going to be in it because they know what they did. The rats are jumping ship. They're pointing the fingers. They're trying to distract the American people. And we already know that most of the American people who are following, especially CNN and MSNBC, their ratings are down. Their ratings have already been down, but now they've really fallen off a cliff because they've been lied to. Or they at least feel that they've been lied to. Come home from a hard day's work, turn on the news. You want to know what's going on. You trust these people. Oh, yeah, we're going to get him. We don't like Donald Trump. We're going to get him. So you hear what you want to hear, and you turn it on day after day, night after night. He's going to be impeached. Bob Mueller, he's an outstanding guy. He doesn't cut corners. He is doing everything by the book. Nobody's messing with him. President Trump hasn't fired him. Jeff Sessions recused himself. Rod Rosenstein's his best friend. Jim Comey's his best friend. Everything's going to be fine, and we're going to finally impeach Trump. We're going to get him. And then what comes out? Nothing. There's nothing. There's no Trump-Russia collusion. There's no obstruction of justice. Nothing. Not him, not his family, not his organizations. Nothing, nobody. And in the meantime, a whole bunch of people's lives were completely ruined. Again, nobody's above the law if they, in fact, broke the law. But they weren't even investigated other than this because this was a witch hunt. And the witch hunt continues. The three-ring circus continues. And now you have Attorney General Bill Barr is expected to face questions about his handling of the Mueller investigation and report when he testifies on the Trump administration's fiscal 2020 budget. And we know that that was a big mistake. That budget I've been critiquing. We know this. Now, first, Bill Barr will face a small group of lawmakers on the House Appropriations Subcommittee with oversight of the Justice Department. This will have several Democrats and 4 Republicans on this, so this isn't going to be the whole three-ring circus right off the bat, but it opens up to it. But the more challenging hearing may come a day later when Barr testifies before a sub-panel of the Senate Appropriations Committee. Several lawmakers from the Senate Judiciary Committee sit on that subcommittee, including Chairman Senator Lindsey Graham, Senator Dianne Feinstein, Senators Patrick Leahy, Democrat, Christopher Coons, a Democrat, and John Kennedy, a Republican. So come Tuesday and Wednesday, Bill Barr will be testifying. There's no question that the Mueller report will be front and center. These politicians, particularly the Democrats, are going to look to make a mockery of it. Why, sir? Why, Mr. Attorney General, have you not released this report in full? They, of course, know the answer to this. There's grand jury information. There's most likely redacted portions of this report. And there might be executive privilege that is asserted. A whole host of issues. It's not only these members in Congress, in the House, and in the Senate, but you also have the likes of those on the campaign trail running for president. They want the whole report. Well, they're not going to get the whole report in all honesty. Probably not going to happen. Probably not going to happen. Especially if it does happen to pertain to grand jury testimony and information and sources and methods. I cannot see that stuff being declassified. Even if the president wants full disclosure of everything, I cannot see him disclosing some of that information if it puts our assets in harm's way. Now, that information may not exist within the report, but that will have to be a decision of the president at some point as to what he wants to do. But I honestly think the FISA disclosures and declassification, the FBI 302s, which are the summary reports of interviews, those things being disclosed along with the inspectors general reports, I think those are really going to put it down. I think these are the trump cards. I really do. I really hope they are, because on a whole host of issues, I agree with the president, and then a whole host of others, the president is really skating on thin ice. And this, to me, is his saving moment, if he can bring justice to our government and to these people. If he doesn't, then it's going to be a very difficult time, a very difficult thing for me to vote for him in 2020. I will not vote for the Democrats, but voting for the president I will struggle with, because I'm going to feel like we've been conned. Because so far, the draining of the swamp has not really happened. It just simply hasn't. Record debt, record deficits, trillion-dollar deficits as far as the eye can see. Military-industrial complex alive and well. Still all over the place with our American empire. In Venezuela most recently now, and Libya over the weekend. Whole host of things coming to the fore. So, a lot of good things have taken place, and a lot of things I'm scratching my head and saying, this isn't really looking like draining the swamp to me. So this can be his saving grace. The man has been under a lot of pressure. He's been under investigation for 2 years. There's things he wants to wait on. I get it. But this will be his saving grace. Because even if the economy goes down, and we talk about the economy all the time on the economic podcast, obviously, this can be his saving grace. This can say, hey, look, the economy might be in a downturn, but I'm draining the swamp. I had no idea how deep and dark this rabbit hole would lead and take us. All these twists and turns. But here we are. And all of these people that you know, these politicians, all of these people in Hollywood or in the media, people are involved. Whether it's the sex trafficking, whether it's staging a coup against the president within the Obama administration, the FBI, the DOJ, whole host of things coming to the forefront. Stay tuned. I told you there's going to be fireworks. I'm hoping that there's fireworks, because if there's not, then this president has been compromised, or he was truly just like every other politician out there. But stay tuned, because it's going to be interesting. Thank you so much for joining me today, ladies and gentlemen. It has been a pleasure having you. As always, please like, share, subscribe, get the word out. Leave your comments. I'd love to hear from you. This is the Capitol News. I am Alex Koritis. Godspeed.